for today's webcast, 3 best practices for sales forecasting. My name is Brooke Bacon, Marketing Coordinator with GSI, and I'm also very pleased to welcome our main presenter, Rick Ratowski from Top Ops. And now before we get started, I just want to give you a chance to review our safe harbor statement. And now for a quick overview of today's meeting, which will last about 60 minutes. First, we would like to take a moment to go over a couple of housekeeping items, as well as provide a brief company overview. Then I will turn it over to Rick to get into our main presentation, which will last about 40 minutes. Then we will take a minute to go over our upcoming educational events, and then we will wrap up with a 10-minute question and answer session. If you would like to submit a question, you can do so through the questions panel at the bottom of the GoToWebinar console window located on the right side of your screen. Please note that all questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. So if you would like to minimize your GoToWebinar console during the presentation, just click the left-facing arrow key on the top left of the console. Clicking the left arrow key will return the console so that you can input your questions. Now I'd like to give you a brief overview of GSI. GSI is a full-service Salesforce consulting organization. We were founded in 2004 and now have over 100 employees. We have offices nationwide and are recognized in the Inc. 5000 list of fastest-growing companies in the U.S., and we specialize in project consulting, managed services, and other services, with all of them backed with a 100% guarantee. We also provide a broad spectrum of business, functional, and technical consulting services for Oracle JD Edwards, Oracle NetSuite, Oracle Cloud, ServiceNow, and other enterprise applications as well. We also offer an extensive array of cloud and hosting solutions for Oracle Cloud, Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and JDE Cloud 9. All right, thank you for your time. And now I would like to turn everything over to Rick for our main presentation.
Thank you, Brooke. Let me, hopefully you're seeing my screen, Brooke, that says 3 tenets of accurate sales forecasting.
Not yet. There we go. Okay, perfect.
Okay, great. Thanks,
you.
Brooke. I'm glad to be here. I'm happy to talk about a subject that is near and dear to my heart, and kind of see that through the presentation. You can figure out why. But before I get started, I thought I'd give you a little bit about my background. I've got over 35 years of experience that cuts across finance, marketing, IT, and sales departments. And I worked in industries including retail, manufacturing, distribution, and software. That's kind of what happens when you're around for a while. In my heart, I'm an analyst. And no matter what role I was in, I was always trying to solve business problems with data. We didn't have cool departments like data science back then. We just did it. First 20 years of my experience was in those business departments. I was the person working a problem by buying software and yelling at the software vendors. Then I became one. I co-founded a market-leading sales SaaS company, Host Analytics, and that's actually where I started in sales. At a startup, everybody's in sales. At that time, we were kind of maniacal about everybody updating Salesforce. And that works really good until you have to do it, and then you realize how tough it is. And that's kind of one of the problems we have today that I'm going to talk about. Interestingly, I probably have 20 years of experience in financial planning. And all that time, just kind of as a benchmark, I would have been giddy to have any part of my sales plan based on the sales pipeline. You know, it was always an arm wrestling match between sales and finance, and that's not my number and that's not your number. And, you know, that problem is solved if it's based on the pipeline, but we never had that. So what we're going to talk about today is the 3 best practices of accurate sales forecasts. And I need to provide a disclaimer, and hopefully I don't chase people away, but we're going to talk about B2B sales. If you Google sales forecasting, I mean, it covers such a, you know, retail sales forecasting and, all kinds of different things. And we're really talking about B2B, and then I even have to limit it a little bit further. And the best way I can describe it, it's B2B where the sales process, the ultimate consumer is the B. So it doesn't include forecasting for CPG companies, because that ultimately is B2C, and that's a totally different process. And I can talk about that, but that's not what I'm talking about here. So just to give you that background, and then I want to start off, and this is, when I mentioned sales forecasting near and dear to my heart. In baseball, we just finished a season, and actually the only game you have to win is the last game of the season. It's the last game of the World Series. In business, the only plan that counts is the sales plan. If you screw it up, you're toast. I mean, sales funds everything the company does, and unfortunately, sales planning is a game. And maybe it's more like a tug of war. Sales wants a reasonable number they know they can hit. The CEO and finance and the board want a number to keep the stakeholders happy. And it's a tug of war. And actually, the lack of information is what creates the game. Imagine for a moment, you're a VP of sales and the board wants you to increase sales by 20% next year. For most VPs, other than moaning, they aren't armed with the tools to extrapolate what that means in terms of marketing, in terms of sales headcount. Can I even hire the people in time to hit that? I can't even put a strategy together. I don't even have the information. So to add to the gaming concept, this is some numbers from Serious Decisions. And if you aren't familiar with them, they're experts in marketing and sales. Their mission is to empower the world's leading marketing, product, and sales leaders to make better decisions and to execute with precision and to accelerate growth. Robert Munoz, he's research director for Serious Decisions, and he put together a time-based activity study, and these are some of the high-level findings. And so what he found is 32% of sales reps are engaged with SFA, with their Salesforce automation, with CRM. And I kind of found that high because I thought we were pretty good at Host, and we were maniacal about it, and I couldn't say if we hit that number or not. But anyway, his findings was 32%. Kind of more interesting is he has findings that for companies who predict sales 90 days out, if you had 100 companies, 17 of them would be within plus or minus percent at the end of the quarter. And if you ask them to produce a 60-day forecast, that accuracy rate went up 3%, went to 20%. And if you ask them to do it 30 days out, so as a sales VP, my life hangs on achieving my target. Only 29% of them were accurate within plus or minus 5%. And that's actually a little lower than when I talk to companies until I drill in with those companies. And so what I mean by that is sometimes I'll talk to companies and they say we're really accurate. We always hit plus or minus 5%. And I kind of relate to them a story as a receiver in football. My job wasn't to catch the ball. My job was to be wherever the quarterback threw it and then catch it. And that's kind of how it is with sales. You put a number out there, and by one way or another, you're going to hit that number. And the problem is the unnatural acts at the end of the quarter that hit that number. And in fact, in talking to customers, a lot of times I hear them say, well, they'll say, yeah, I hit plus or minus 5%, but what happens? 50% of the deals I planned on getting, I didn't get, and then I had to really scramble, and then I had to do some discounting. So that's kind of another perspective on it. And then this perspective really comes from the roles inside the sales department. And interestingly, these are just quotes we hear. Sales operations, I need the sales organization to update CRM so I have usable data. And the sales rep, I hate updating CRM because it takes too much time. What are we going to do? I mean, everybody has, it's a mad scramble. And so those are some of the problems that we see kind of from different perspectives. And what I would like to do is really, if I dig into the problem a little bit more, our ultimate goal is an accurate sales forecast. But to have an accurate forecast, I have to have a systematically built, fact-based sales pipeline. If my sales pipeline is junk or it's over-optimistic, so is my forecast. Accuracy in the sales pipeline requires unbiased interpretation of most of the rep prospect interactions. The problem is right now we don't have it. And that's where the kind of bottleneck is. And, you know, when tables were turned and I had to update CRM, I realized that. That's why I highlighted it in green. To solve this problem, we have to work the problem from the bottom up. We have to get more data, have it a very visible pipeline where you can drill to the lowest level, and have a focus on that so you can understand rep and prospect interactions. Because what we found is that's where we learn. The activities are significant and the time between activities are significant. We learn things like usually we win deals when the time between meetings doesn't go longer than what, 7 days or 14 days or 21 days, whatever. When we send out a pricing agreement, if we hear nothing in 2 weeks, that's a problem. You know, we may receive a verbal commit that says, yeah, we're going to do the deal. And then it's pushed. How many of those do we really win? This slide and the previous 3 slides are really the basis for the tenets, for the, you know, the 3 best practices that we're now going to talk about. And so the 3 best practices, the first is accurate information and qualification. And we've kind of beat that one up. Yeah. We need more information. We need to be able to group leads. We need to be able to quantify. We need to understand which ones we should work. Then we need sales process consistency. And this covers, you know, understanding the real sales process based on history, based on closed deals, and provide visibility and alerts around the process, you know, effectively wake up calls so you can take action. And then the third is machine learning and data science. And, you know, I refer to this a lot as artificial intelligence. Sometimes you hear terms prescriptive and predictive analytics. Sometimes you hear terms like AI. And these terms may have similar or different definitions depending on who you're talking about. I think of it as one gigantic gray area and kind of lump it all together. The interesting thing is my belief is that, you know, having AI infused into the sales process is not an ah feature. It's not a wow feature. If it's done right, it's transparent to the user and it just helps. So now we're going to focus on the first one, accurate information and qualification. And actually, it's a house of cards. It requires manual updates from the salespeople who don't love using the tool, and everything falls apart. They rely on, you know, the reps to do manual input in CRM, which they don't like. The pipeline requires a gut feel from the reps, and depending on their disposition, are they happy years reps, over optimistic, or are they sandbaggers? The forecast relies on arbitrary guess of the sales reps and the managers based on the stage. And so, you know, the problem all originate here. If we start to look at, so what are we going to do about it? I said we had to solve the problem from the bottom up with accurate information. You can't beat the sales reps into submission because when you do that, it takes time away from their selling. We have to work where they work, in email, in their calendar. We have to collect information as a byproduct of their standard routine. If you think about current CRM, there's nothing in it for sales. Reps need to keep it up to date so their managers can look over their shoulder. They generally keep in their head what they think is important, although some things may slip through the cracks. If you can provide a tool that helps them sell with less effort and more results, it's a positive thing. Also, you know, our third tenet was AI, was machine learning, but I'm going to be mentioning it throughout because it kind of interweaves through all of this. You know, we also need to supplement the information with sentiment analysis. I get an email. Do I need, you know, do I have to have the rep go in every time and say it's good or bad? No, use sentiment analysis. to understand if the email is good or bad and rank it accordingly. So that is how we solve the problem. And now what I'm going to go into is more examples of what a solution would look like. And so in this example, it's email integration. It's an email from Crystal Summers. She's an account executive. She's working with Paul Darst at Lincoln & Smith, and she sends him an email about his interest, and he responds. He says he'll take the meeting invite, and he's invited the CFO and IT, which is great from a sales perspective. Let me get all the buyers together. One way to integrate with email is through an add-in and identify to the add-in the email domains for Lincoln & Smith. So when you go out to their email, you can pick up all the emails from Lincoln & Smith. And this is kind of AI-ish, it's algorithmic, because different companies, you know, where I'm at, we have like 4 or 5 different potential domains that are our email domains. Top ops software, there's a number of varieties, and you got to collect them all, otherwise you miss people. This email would be then flagged and tied to the opportunity, and actually the content would be saved in CRM and in a application such as ours. And if you see this panel to the right, we flagged it so we can open this panel to the right. And from here, Crystal could do 90% of what she does in our application right here. Never has to go into the application, never has to open a browser. Also, one key area to understand is one of the key things that emails provide that you miss a lot of times is the buying group. So you have other people CC'd on it that you could then add to this opportunity. And this is an area that's kind of tricky. You know, CRM kind of falls apart here. You have a gazillion leads from a company, and then one of them gets forwarded to an opportunity as a contact, and the rest of them fall by the wayside. And connecting them up to that opportunity, you lose all the history. And so being able to connect that through the email kind of helps things out here. Also, this is where I mentioned emails infused to understand positive and negative nature of the email. And it's kind of tricky, and it's more AI-ish. But we started with a lexicon of positive and negative sales terms to rate the sentiment of an email, and then provide the sales reps the ability to also rate emails. And when they do that, it's a thumbs up, thumbs down type of thing. We update that lexicon for maybe terminology that's part of your sales cycle. So we capture all of that. So that's email. We also have to do it to the calendar, and the calendar is even more important when it comes to, you know, this add-in and then adding people to the buying group. And I'll talk about that a little bit when we get to process. But this is kind of another key feature. And so we've captured email, we've captured calendar, and then the third place is really mobile, because that's where sales reps work. And again, you might need to make it as easy as possible. What I'm looking at here is my cell phone, and each of those tiles represent an opportunity that's part of my bag. And I'm going to click on Lincoln & Smith because I'm doing stuff with them, and then it brings up, you know, again, 90% of what I can do on the web I can do here. And what I may want to do, I've just finished a meeting, I want to do a check-in. So I click on check-in, and now I can click on the little microphone button at the bottom and dictate what went on in the meeting. And, you know, versus typing on a small phone, I'll get more and I'll get better information. And then the other thing is you can picture the sales rep. And again, you know, sales has changed a bit. Some still, you know, call on customers, but you can picture them sitting somewhere and waiting for something. And they can go into their phone and they can look at their dashboard and they can see they have alerts requiring fixes. And again, this is part of the AI I'll talk about, but they can just go in and start working their alerts. You need to move this up or move this back. You need to take this action. And so they can do all of this, and our internal studies for our customers show that using these 3 tools increase information on opportunities 400%. And that's key when you start talking AI, because if you don't have enough information, you don't have a basis. You don't have enough to really judge anything. So that's the first tenet. The next tenet we're going to discuss is sales process consistency. And we like to think about the sales process as linear. You know, it goes forward from stage to stage all the way to close one. I've identified some stages here. I've identified some milestones within each stage. It's all nice and tidy. The problem is it's not that nice and tidy. You know, some opportunities accelerate faster than others, some stall. You know, a killer is when the rep thinks they're going into the close and they hear, you know, the last words in the meeting are, oh yeah, that's right, our CFO needs to see this demo, or we need to pull in somebody else, and it causes the entire process to go back to a prior stage and you start all over again. And worse yet, any of these things help lose the momentum of the opportunity with the customer. And you know, losing the momentum can be more fatal than having a competitor in the deal, because when they lose momentum, they just close to no decision and they keep doing what they've been doing. So the whole pipeline is hard to manage. It's also, you know, all of these arrows back and forth, things fall through the cracks. And the consistency of the sales process really supports the systematic building of a sales pipeline. So solving this is key. And so what do we do about it? First of all, you have to understand your actual sales process, not that slide I just showed you that's all nice and pretty and you staple it to your wall and you go, oh, what stage are they in? You need to understand your ideal customer profile. What do they look like? You need to understand stages, and most companies do that, and that's generally where we start. We can pull the stages off of the CRM system as a starting point. And they need to understand sales milestones within stages and who is your buying team. And again, AI can help with those. One of the real problems with understanding all of this is it's typically biased by the sales rep, whether they're happy ears or sandbaggers. And so again, when we talk about AI, we'll talk a little bit more about how we can fix that. The second thing is real-time visibility into the pipeline. And, you know, I kind of chuckle when I say that because everybody wants real-time, and, you know, real-time that my heart is beating is more important than real-time visibility in my pipeline. But what we mean by that is, you know, if you look at how it's done today, a lot of times, you know, 5 days or 10 days before the forecast is due, they'll do a cut of the pipeline and save it to Excel, and then they'll massage it all over the place. And then changes will happen and they won't reflect those changes, and all of a sudden they'll say the number's this, and somebody will say, oh, but we forgot this and this and this. And so, you know, real time means just so whenever you look at it, whenever you drill through the detail, you have the latest and greatest, the latest email, the latest meeting, you know it's scheduled, things like that. And when I really think about real-time visibility, and when I think about the pipeline, I want to be able to roll around in the data. Again, I'm a data geek, so I would, but, you know, I want to be able to look at it by opportunity. I want to be able to look at it by opportunity, by stage by opportunity, or by forecast category by opportunity, or by sales rep by opportunity. I want to be able to look at it, you know, because when you look at these things, all you do is have more questions, and questions may be drilling into it, or they may be looking across it, and I want to be able to do all of that. I want to be able to understand my next step on each opportunity. I want to, you know, understand which, you know, I'm coming down to the quarter, which are my opportunities with the highest likelihood of closing? Where do I need to put my time? And I need, what helps me organize this is alerts. And I think everything I'm saying here, people go, wow, I'd really love that. Yeah, you know, why don't we have it now? And you're not telling me anything I don't know, I just can't get it. And so we're going to talk more about that. What I'm going to do now is, again, just go into some examples of what real-time visibility looks like and what I should be able to do with the system. So here's an example of visualizing the pipeline. It's actually a Kanban board. On the left, I have my closed one, and then I have my different sales stages, and this is different for every company. In this case, it's organized by sales stage, but I could switch it to any number of different views. I could pivot the pipeline. I could filter it. I could look at it by different sales processes. Maybe I don't want to look at renewals. Maybe I want to look at enterprise customers. And who do I want to look at it? Do I want to look at it by a sales individual or a sales team? I basically want to have, and then from here, I want to keep this context, but I want to have the ability to look at every nuance of a particular deal, highlight riskier deals. We have visual clues. The red arrows back means it was moved back from a stage. It was probably a stage up farther, and now I'm moving it back. The green arrows mean I just moved it up. We have visual clues as there are alerts on these deals. We can see our amounts. It gives us a quick snapshot, but I have the ability to drill in. Next, I want to understand my alerts. And so if this is by sales rep, I can go in here, I can go on my phone, and I can see all of my alerts. And these alerts, again, we'll talk about them in AI, but they're generated. And if we look at the first one, exit criteria complete, all sponsored demo, move to proof point. So this is telling me that I have enough critical mass behind this deal that I can move it to proof point. Now, we don't let AI do that, but what we do is we allow to click from that screen and allow the sales rep to do that. So straight from here, they can approve or dismiss it. I saw a write-up on our, some reviews of our application on G2 Crowd, and one of the things that the person said was, this is really not a sales analytic tool. It's really a merger of a sales analytic tool, part of a CRM tool, and part of taking action and doing your daily work, an operational tool. And that's what we wanted. We wanted to be able to do it all in one place. So now I can, look at my deals, look at what the alerts are, take care of the alerts. The actions are sensitive to what the alert is. And then the last thing, and we'll go into more things, but I want to keep context on where I'm at. But if I would click on the name of the deal, or if I'd click on the rep, I would see different things. I'd be able to pivot the view. Is the rep up for this? What are their statistics? What's the deal look like? Tell me all the details. And so here, I'm going to drill into all the details and have access to everything available on that opportunity. So I even have access, and again, this is a little cut off. This is a pretty long report. I have access to all my emails, every transaction ever made, my check-ins. I can add a task on my list or somebody else's list. I can understand all the details of the opportunity. This one isn't fitting my ideal content, but I have the ability to see how the momentum's building on the deal, and this one's building really well. And so all of a sudden, as a sales manager, I can do this, and I can then have a substantive discussion with the sales rep and strategize the customer, rather than spending a half an hour talking to the sales rep, getting up to speed on where this deal stands and all the transactions, where I feel comfortable that he's told me everything, even though it's filtered by happy ears or sandbaggers, and then can give them recommendations on the strategy. So I've taken some of that bias out of it with this. And so that's just a quick review of again, visibility in the pipeline, visibility in the process. We're now going to go into the third pillar, which is machine learning. And we talked about, a little bit about artificial intelligence in the first two tenets of sales forecasting, accurate information and sales process. Because some cases it's hard to not really talk about the solution without getting involved in that, because otherwise it would be so labor intensive to do this, or configuration intensive. The rules would just be a lot of configuration. But what we need, and this is where AI fits in, is now that we have all this data, we need to help focus on what's important and to take the appropriate action. And so, and I use the statement, AI is infused across the entire sales process. And I do that because a lot of times people talk about AI for sales forecasting, and they talk about it as being an algorithm to predict sales. And there it is, sales forecasting, but it's a lot more than that. It's transparently collecting emails, understanding email domains. It's looking at history to understand the buying team and suggest who should be added proactively, and flagging when they're not for moving to the next stage. It's sentiment analysis on email. When we start talking about the pipeline process, alerts are a big part of it. Understanding the overall process, it helps doing that, and the milestones. Assessing milestone achievement. Do we have enough critical mass? And the challenge is the sales process is pretty noisy, so you need help with that. And then calculating a time-sensitive health score. And on some of these screens, you saw percentages, a percentage number, and we're going to go in that, but that's a health score. That's to understand how healthy the opportunity is. And then one of the things that I think is often overlooked, and I have a little story about that, is sales rep coaching, providing intelligent insights for the sales reps, recommending next steps for each opportunity so the sales rep can talk about it. And when you think of these sales managers, I mean, I when I was selling one time, there was this one sales rep that I knew every time I went against him, I would lose. I just did. Thankfully, the company he worked for decided to promote him to a sales manager. And I won every deal after that against that company. Because a lot of times these sales reps aren't really sales managers yet. And time-sensitive health score, that's what we're looking at here. That's what all these circles were. And what it means is, first of all, I give you a number in 75. You don't know if it's good or bad. It's kind of a magic number. That's no good. So the health scores really broke up across 3 areas. It gets some number from a stage. It gets some number from how well it fits the ideal customer profile. And it gets some number from momentum. And momentum is the time sensitive part. And sometimes you can, so this score is 25 and 20, so its base score is 45, its momentum is 30, and this momentum depreciates over time. So, the fact that I have it within 7 days, great, I get a lot of points. 45 days from now, if none of this changed, this would be back down to 45%. Although it may still be in the same stage, and if you can think of 45% appearing in this column, you would catch it as an anomaly, and you could jump on it to solve the problem. And so, and again, this isn't, if you think of I used to do marketing, we had marketing scores, marketing lead scores, but they were never time sensitive. And so, we just kept accumulating numbers. And if you had a lead for 3 years, and they occasionally came by and downloaded something, they could eventually get a good score, but it was dated. And so now, again, the AI figures out the time sensitivity based on history. The next area, and then you could hit this screen from the pipeline screen, but this is the sales rep. This is Cameron Vaughn, and this is her statistics. What we have over here is insights, and if you click on those insights, it highlights the numbers. So the sales manager knows how they're calculated, sales rep knows how they're calculated. We can see their sales by stage. We can see win-loss percentages, and this goes down pretty far, and I couldn't include all of it. But some of the key things are the ability to compare peer-to-peer, or team-to-team, or peers within teams. I mean, nothing motivates people more is to say, look, man, you're at the bottom of the list. You're burning my leads because your close ratio is terrible. Your win percentage is terrible. And it's the worst we've got. And, kind of incent them that way. But getting all of this number and these insights highlight things. And some of these insights are like, look, their pipeline is 50% lower than last quarter. Well, that's a problem, and don't expect a lot from them, but at least you know what's going on. And then lastly, I would be remiss in not talking about the sales forecast process, and this is a sales forecast screen. My number that the system is projecting is 1,000,004. It's made up of a pipeline contribution from here, and here we're looking at it by stage, by sales stage. And it's also made up of a future pipeline contribution, and this kind of depends on your sales cycle and your sales periods. In this case, the sales cycle is less than 90 days. And so what this is showing are, at least we have some deals less than 90 days. What this is showing is, if I was, say 89 days into the quarter, this number instead of 28 would be closer to 78. But all of a sudden it drops and then it goes to 28. And why does it drop so fast? Well, the thing about sales forecasting is it's when it comes from the pipeline, it's binary. You either close a deal or you don't. And so if you had two deals, a $100,000 deal and a $2 deal, if you wanted to average that, it would become 50,000 or 50,001. But you're only going to get, if you're going to close 50%, you're only going to get one of them. So you're either going to be a hero or a zero. And so we have to take that into consideration. Also, you can see this by pipeline. You can see by stage. You can see we're predicting you will close 54% of these. And your total number is this. And if you drill in on it, you can then look at the opportunities and say, I agree with that. Or, I don't agree with that. You also have levers here to change this forecast, excluding stages or using different periods as comparison to help tweak the number. And this is a little bit of a learning curve, but it provides a better basis for a forecast. Now the question is, what do I do with that forecast? Here's this magic number, and do I say yes, that's it, and stake my career on it? And I wouldn't. But here's what you do with it. And this is just another report. And this shows, and that those forecasts exist for total company, for department, for sales team, for individual sales rep. You can drill all the way down. And here I'm looking at Cameron and I'm looking at Darcy. And this is the AI forecast. And this is what they said they're going to do. So there's $172,000 difference. And this is what if I'm the sales manager, this is what I'm going to report. Why? Because she said she can do 300. I believe her, and I see no reason to do 472. I'll manage expectations. However, Darcy, their forecast is 176. They're still saying 300. I'm not going to tell Darcy, but I'm going to put in 200. I know I'm going to come out okay because my quotas are both 200. But I know, but I'm going to go talk to Darcy and ask her how she figures she's going to do 300 and look at this forecast and see which deals it's predicting that they close and see which ones she says and figure out how we make up the difference. So I can now have an intelligent conversation with her and provide a realistic forecast at the same time. So that's kind of the 3 best practices based on the tenets and kind of examples of each. I just want to leave you with a couple of thoughts, and one of them is just, imagine if your sales team spent more time selling. If we didn't need them to update CRM at all, we didn't have the beatings will continue until morale improves. We just took it out of their hands and gave them a tool that they liked and they wanted to use. And secondly, what we're really talking about is a data-driven process. How consistent would your sales be? And I'm not going to candy coat it. I mean, it's a learning curve for everybody. But just think about those 2 things. And actually, with that, I will turn it back over to Brooke.
Great, thank you so much, Rick. All right, let me know when you can see my screen.
I can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. Great. Well, thank you so much. Before we move on to our question and answer section of the webcast, I just want to finish with a few follow-up items. Our webcast today is a part of GSI's free ongoing educational webcast series on Salesforce, and our upcoming webcasts are listed currently on the screen, which is the one just for today, but we are updating them weekly. So to view our most up-to-date schedule, just go to getgsi.com/webcast. And we do provide an extensive free educational resource center for our Salesforce community, which includes our weekly educational webcast, online resources where you can access our on-demand webcasts and white papers, and we also do on-site and virtual workshops. Okay, perfect. So let's see. It looks like we have a couple questions submitted online. I would like to remind everyone that if you would like to still submit a question, you can do so through the questions panel on the GoToWebinar console window on the right side of your screen. And if you minimized your console earlier, please just click the left-facing arrow key to redisplay the questions panel. Okay, Rick, let's see here. We've got a couple questions. Our first question is from Adam, and he says, do these type of solutions replace CRM?
No, they don't. They kind of work with CRM. I mean, CRM is the books of record, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And these type of solutions, I mean, they're different solutions. We basically do bidirectional write back. So it's in our solution and it's in, we write it back to, we integrate with Salesforce, we integrate with Microsoft Dynamics, we integrate with NetSuite, and we write it back to their object models. So it's available in both places.
Okay, great. And our next question is from Joanne, and she says, why can't our CRM solve this?
So interesting, good question. I guess in a perfect world, CRM could, but that's also, and again, I got a finance background. In a perfect world, I could do everything in my general ledger. It just doesn't work out that way. If you think of CRM and you think of, and if I use Salesforce, we're talking B2B sales, but Salesforce biggest customers are retailers. And so who do they cater to? And there's a lot of detail to do it. And so it just, right now, honestly, it isn't getting done. I mean, eventually it probably will, but we said that about enterprise performance management. We still have budgeting vendors out there that sell software. It's still not in ERP. So it's just kind of the evolution of software that it doesn't end up there.
Okay, great. And our last question we have here for today is from Steve, and he says, isn't an AI forecast just a black box forecast, and how can I trust it?
Well, and good question too. It shouldn't be a black box forecast, and that's what, and maybe I didn't succeed in my demo showing that screen, but you should be able to understand how it's calculated. And it isn't like you take it for gospel. It is just another comparison point. And, in our case, we show how it's calculated. There's a number of ways to do the forecast. You can do it by sales stage. You can do it by forecast category, which is like commit and best case and engaged. And, we base it on history based on percentages of experience. People tend to overestimate what their close rates are. But if you're not seeing that in the product, you need to ask about it, because it should not be a black box forecast.
Okay, great. We actually do have another question here, Rick. This is from Eddie, and he says, how much can a purchasing department trust uncertain forecasts to avoid buying too much?
How much? Can you repeat the question? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it says,
I'm not
he
sure I
said,
understand it.
how much can a purchasing department trust uncertain forecasts to avoid buying too much?
Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, the purchasing department in this case would be on the buyer side, and I am not sure that, I mean, our AI doesn't help there. It's, the calculation of what the software price is or what the product price is kind of a separate negotiation. It's not a part of AI at all. So I mean, I'd be glad to take the question offline and understand it better, but I'm not sure that, I don't think that applies, because that's on the purchasing department. That's the buyer side, and
Right.
I don't know how to answer that, because
Yeah.
like our software is based on users. And
Okay. Yeah, he said thank you.
okay.
So yeah, we can follow up with you afterwards too, Eddie. Okay, great. And it looks like that's the end of our questions for today. I want to thank you again so much, Rick, for your presentation, and everybody for your questions today.
My pleasure.
And as a follow-up from today's webcast, we just ask that you complete a short 1-minute survey when you exit, and you will be receiving an email with a link to our Resource Center on our website where you can access the recording from today's webcast as well as a copy of the presentation. And after today's webcast, we will do a drawing for the $25 Amazon gift card, and anyone that attended the entire webcast will be eligible, and we will notify the winner. And if you have any follow-up questions, you can contact Rick or I. And we just want to thank you again for attending our presentation today, and we hope that you have a great day. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Rick.
Yep. You're
Have a
welcome.
good one. All right, bye-bye.
Yep. Bye.